Here's a truth the personal development experts won't tell you. Your limitation isn't lack of potential, it's excess of comfort. You don't need more inspiration, you need more disruption. You've become dangerously skilled at maintaining patterns that keep you safe while sacrificing patterns that would make you successful. For the next 7 days, I'm going to show you how to systematically dismantle the comfort mechanisms that have been sabotaging your growth. This isn't about dramatic gestures or emotional commitments. It's about methodically implementing 7 principles that successful people have always known, but mediocre people consistently avoid. Warning, this process will make you uncomfortable before it makes you successful. If you're looking for comfortable transformation, I recommend finding another speaker. But if you're ready to trade temporary discomfort for permanent growth, these next few minutes could be the pivot point your life has been waiting for. The moment you decide to change is the moment everything becomes possible. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the perfect moment to transform, waiting for permission, waiting for circumstances to align, waiting for someone to notice their potential. They're waiting for a divine interruption that may never come because they've missed the fundamental truth. Transformation isn't scheduled for tomorrow. It's available right now. Look around this room. Every person sitting here has something in common, something so obvious we rarely acknowledge it. We all have exactly 168 hours each week. The wealthy person and the struggling person. The successful and the stagnant. The fulfilled and the frustrated. We each receive the same allotment of time. Yet some people consistently produce extraordinary results while others remain trapped in cycles of mediocrity and disappointment. Why? The difference isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't even opportunity. The difference is how you steward those 168 hours. For the next few minutes, I want to challenge everything you believe about transformation. I want to disrupt the comfortable lies you've been telling yourself, because true growth never happens in comfortable places. True transformation requires confrontation with truth. Here's the truth that changed everything for me: small actions. Perform consistently. Create permanent transformation. Not grand declarations, not emotional promises, not intense bursts of activity followed by weeks of nothing. Small, deliberate actions performed daily will revolutionize your life more profoundly than any seminar, any book, any course you'll ever take. 7 days, that's all I'm asking you to commit to. 7 days of acting in alignment with principles that successful, fulfilled people have proven across centuries. 7 days of installing new patterns that will begin reshaping who you become. Why 7 days? Because 7 days is long enough to initiate genuine change, but short enough to fully commit to without overwhelming yourself. 7 days creates sufficient momentum to experience real results, but doesn't trigger the self-sabotage mechanism that activates when we promise ourselves unrealistic timelines. I'm not interested in temporary motivation. I'm interested in your transformation. And transformation begins with truth. Here's the truth most motivational voices won't tell you your life right now is the accumulated result of your daily habits and choices. Not your intentions, not your potential, not your circumstances. Your actual behaviors, repeated day after day, have created your current reality with mathematical precision. If you're living a life that disappoints you, it's because your daily choices have been programmed to produce exactly that outcome. Your habits aren't aligned with your desires. Your routine behaviors are creating results you don't want. The good news, you can reprogram these patterns in just 7 days. Not completely transform your life, that takes longer, but you can initiate the sequence that makes permanent change inevitable. Let me share something powerful. Your mind cannot tell the difference between who you actually are and who you're consistently acting like. Act like a disciplined person for 7 days. And your mind begins rebuilding your identity as someone disciplined. Act like a confident person for 7 days. And your brain starts reconstructing your self-image accordingly. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't affirmation. This is neurological reprogramming through consistent action. When you align your behaviors with the person you desire to become, Your brain literally begins rewiring itself to support this new identity. 7 days of deliberate. Conscious behavior begins a chain reaction that can fundamentally alter the trajectory of your life. But before I reveal the specific actions that will catalyze this transformation, we need to confront the enemies of change, the hidden forces that have kept you trapped in patterns of mediocrity and unfulfillment. The first enemy is comfort disguised as contentment. Many of us have confused being comfortable with being fulfilled. We've settled for lives that don't hurt enough to force change, but don't fulfill enough to bring joy. We exist in this dangerous middle zone, not suffering enough to demand transformation, but not thriving enough to experience true purpose. Are you settling for comfort when your soul is crying out for purpose? Are you choosing familiarity when your potential is begging for challenge? The first act of transformation is honesty about where you actually are. The second enemy is more subtle, the gap between knowing and doing. Knowledge without application is merely potential. Information without implementation is worthless. This room is full of people who know exactly what they should be doing but aren't doing it consistently. You don't need more information, you need transformation of your implementation. The third enemy is the most deceptive, the belief that transformation requires perfection. How many times have you abandoned growth because you couldn't maintain perfection? How often have you quit because you made one mistake? Missed one day. Slipped once in your commitment. Transformation isn't built on perfection, it's built on consistency. It's not about perfect days, it's about accumulated direction. It's not about flawless execution, it's about persistent correction. Now, let's talk about the 7-day challenge that will begin redirecting your life toward its highest expression. These aren't complicated techniques, they aren't secret formulas, they are simple. Proven practices that, when performed consistently, will initiate profound change. For 7 days, just 7 days, I want you to act as if these principles are already embedded in your character. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until you believe it. Act as if these are already core components of who you are. Principle 1, purposeful rising for 7 days. Rise early with intention, not by accident or necessity. The moment between sleep and rising sets the tone for your entire day. Most people begin their days in reaction mode, responding to alarms, rushing through routines, immediately checking messages and emails that put them in a responsive rather than directive mindset. All 7 days. Rise 1 hour earlier than necessary. Use this time not for work or productivity, but for setting your mental and spiritual foundation. This isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more centered before doing anything. During this hour, engage in 3 activities: silence, reading, and planning. Begin with at least 15 minutes of complete silence, no phone. No television, no radio, no conversation. Just silence that allows your mind to calibrate before the noise of the day invades. Then spend 15 minutes reading something that feeds your mind and spirit, not news, not social media, but wisdom that has stood the test of time. Something that connects you to purpose larger than daily concerns. Finally, spend 15 minutes planning your day, not just tasks, but consciously deciding who you will be today. What virtues will you embody? How will you respond to challenges? What impact do you want to have on others? The remaining 15 minutes are for physical preparation, but notice how different your shower, your breakfast, your preparation will feel when they follow spiritual and mental centering rather than preceding it. I've seen this single principle transform lives more dramatically than almost any other. Rising with purpose rather than reaction fundamentally alters how you experience your entire day for 7 days. Commit to purposeful rising. Don't concern yourself with what happens on day 8. Just give yourself the gift of 7 consecutive days of beginning with intention rather than reaction. Principle 2, language discipline for 7 days. Become meticulously conscious of the words coming out of your mouth. Most people have no idea how their habitual language is programming their subconscious mind and shaping their reality. For 7 days. Eliminate all complaints from your speech. Not reduce complaints, 0 complaints. This doesn't mean denying problems exist. It means refusing to use your precious energy amplifying what you don't want. When you complain, you're literally using your creative power to reinforce the very conditions you claim to dislike. This will be harder than you imagine. The average person complains 15 to 30 times daily, often without realizing it, whether traffic, politics, co-workers, family members, physical discomfort. Waiting in line, our culture has normalized constant complaint as a form of social bonding. For 7 days. Replace every complaint with either silence or a constructive alternative. Instead of this traffic is terrible, try this. Gives me extra time to listen to something valuable instead of my boss is so demanding. Try being challenged to grow in new ways. Additionally, eliminate all self-diminishing language. No more I'm not good at math, or I've never been organized, or I always procrastinate. These aren't descriptions, they're prescriptions. They're instructions to your subconscious mind to maintain those limitations. For 7 days, speak only words that align with your highest vision for yourself and others. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about accurate thinking. You're removing the distortions that have been sabotaging your potential. Remember, your words don't just describe your reality, they create it. For 7 days, speak as if you're already the person you're capable of becoming. Principle 3, environmental mastery. For 7 days. Take absolute control of your environment. Most people dramatically underestimate how powerfully their surroundings influence their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Start with your physical spaces. For 7 days, maintain immaculate order in your living and working areas. Make your bed immediately upon rising. Clear all surfaces before leaving any room. Wash dishes immediately after use. Pile papers rather than stacking them. This isn't about perfectionism, it's about mastery. When your external environment is ordered, your internal environment naturally follows. Chaos in your physical space creates corresponding chaos in your mental space. Next, take control of your information environment for 7 days. Eliminate all non-essential media consumption. No mindless scrolling, no background television, no automatic radio in the car. Replace these passive inputs with intentional ones that serve your highest aims. Finally, take command of your social environment for 7 days. Be deliberate about every conversation, every interaction, every relationship you engage with. Minimize exposure to negative, cynical, or limiting perspectives. Maximize connection with people who inspire your growth. This doesn't mean abandoning important relationships. It means being proactive rather than reactive within them. Lead conversations toward meaningful topics. Respond to negativity with positive alternatives. Set appropriate boundaries when necessary. For 7 days, treat your environment as a sacred space that either elevates or diminishes your potential. Nothing neutral enters your awareness. Everything is either supporting your highest expression or it's not welcome in your space. Have you ever noticed how differently you think and feel in a beautiful, ordered environment compared to a cluttered, chaotic one? Have you recognized how your energy shifts when you move from a negative conversation to an inspiring one? These aren't coincidences. Your environment isn't just a backdrop to your life, it's actively shaping who you become. What most people fail to realize is that environment isn't something that happens to you, it's something you create. Even in circumstances you didn't choose, you have the power to order your immediate surroundings. Select your information inputs and direct your social interactions for 7 days. Exercise this power deliberately. Become the architect of your environment rather than its victim. This single shift will create ripple effects through every dimension of your experience. These 3 principles alone, purposeful rising, language discipline, and environmental mastery, would transform your life if implemented consistently. But we're building a complete system of transformation. Each principle reinforces and amplifies the others, creating a powerful synergy that accelerates your growth. What makes these principles so effective is that they address both the internal and external dimensions of transformation. They reshape not just what you do, but who you're becoming. They alter not just your behaviors, but your fundamental perception of reality. This is why the 7-day time frame is so powerful. In just 1 week of consistent implementation, you'll experience enough benefit to recognize the extraordinary potential of these principles. You'll have tangible evidence of their effectiveness, creating momentum to continue beyond the initial commitment. I'm not asking you to completely overhaul your life overnight. I'm asking you to act in alignment with these principles for just 7 days. Give yourself the gift of discovering what's possible when you operate according to these fundamental laws of transformation. The principles themselves aren't new or revolutionary. They've been taught by wisdom traditions across cultures for centuries. What's revolutionary is the decision to actually implement them consistently rather than merely understanding them intellectually. This is where most transformation fails, in the gap between knowing and doing. You likely already know that rising with purpose would benefit you. You probably understand that your words shape your reality. You may already recognize the impact of your environment on your potential. But knowing isn't enough. Information without implementation creates frustration, not transformation, for 7 days. Close the gap between what you know and what you do. Act as if these principles are already fundamental aspects of who you are. Don't wait until you feel motivated. Don't wait until it's convenient. Don't wait for perfect circumstances. Begin tomorrow morning, not with tentative experimentation, but with complete commitment to 7 days of aligned action. Principle 4, physical reverence. For 7 days. Treat your body as the sacred vessel it is. Most people live disconnected from their physical selves, treating their bodies as inconvenient life support systems for their brains, or worse, as enemies to be fought against. For 7 days, hydrate abundantly. Begin each day with a full glass of water before anything else enters your system. Continue hydrating throughout the day, recognizing that your cognitive function, emotional regulation, and physical energy are all directly tied to your hydration levels. For 7 days. Nourish your body with intention. This isn't about perfect eating or rigid diets. It's about conscious consumption. Before each meal, pause to acknowledge the incredible miracle that food becomes your body. Make deliberate choices about what you allow to become your physical self. For 7 days. Move your body with purpose. This doesn't require intense workouts or athletic achievement. It means honoring your body's design for movement. Walk when you could drive. Take stairs when you could use elevators. Stand when you could sit. Stretch when you feel stiffness. Commit to at least 30 minutes of intentional movement daily: walking, dancing, swimming, yoga, strength training. Whatever resonates with your unique body. The form matters less than the reverence behind it. For 7 days, prioritize restorative sleep. Prepare for sleep as thoughtfully as you would any important appointment. Create darkness, silence, and coolness in your sleeping environment. Disconnect from screens at least 1 hour before bed. Develop a consistent pre-sleep routine that signals to your body that rest is coming. Most transformations fail because people overlook the physical foundation of spiritual and mental change. When your body is depleted, your willpower weakens. When your energy is low, your vision shrinks. When your physical systems are stressed, your emotional resilience crumbles. For 7 days, honor your physical existence as the miracle it is. This reverence will create the energetic foundation for every other aspect of your transformation. Principle 5, purposeful service. For 7 days, intentionally serve others without expectation of recognition or return. This principle addresses one of the most common sources of unhappiness: self-absorption. When we're focused primarily on our own needs, desires, problems, and goals, we create psychological conditions for suffering. Paradoxically, the more intensely we focus on our own fulfillment, the more it eludes us. For 7 days, perform at least one deliberate act of service daily. This isn't about grand gestures or significant time commitments. It's about shifting your awareness from self-concern to contribution. Send an encouraging message to someone struggling. Perform a task for a family member without mentioning it. Leave a generous tip with a note of appreciation. Share specific. Genuine praise with a coworker. Pick up litter in a public space. Allow someone to merge in traffic with a genuine smile. The key is intentionality. These aren't random acts of kindness. They're deliberate choices to shift your focus from consumption to contribution, from getting to giving, from self-concern to meaningful impact. For 7 days, begin asking different questions. Instead of what can I get today, ask what can I give today. Instead of what do I need, ask who needs me is me. Instead of how am I feeling, ask how can I improve someone else's feelings. This principle transforms not just those you serve, but your entire experience of life. When you're contributing value rather than just consuming it, you access levels of fulfillment that remain inaccessible to those focused primarily on themselves. For 7 days, become a deliberate force for good in the lives around you. Don't worry about the scale of your impact. Focus on the consistency of your contribution. Principle 6, financial discipline. For 7 days, bring complete consciousness to your relationship with money. Nothing reveals our true values more clearly than how we allocate our financial resources. For 7 days, track every expenditure, no matter how small. This isn't about restriction, it's about awareness. Most people have no idea where their resources are actually going because spending has become largely unconscious. Review your spending patterns from the previous month. What percentage went to temporary pleasures versus lasting value? What percentage went to physical assets versus experiences that develop you? What percentage went to consumption versus contribution? For 7 days, implement the principle of intentional allocation before the day begins. Decide exactly how much you'll spend and on what. When the day ends, reconcile actual spending with intended spending. Notice the psychological forces that pulled you away from your intentions. For 7 days. Practice gratitude for every financial exchange, whether buying groceries, paying bills, or making larger purchases. Pause to acknowledge the miracle of exchange that allows your resources to secure what you need and value. For 7 days, implement the principle of first fruits by allocating the first 10% of any income to your future self through savings or investment. And another percentage to purposes beyond yourself through giving. This pattern of allocation literally rewires your relationship with abundance. Most people's financial struggles aren't primarily mathematical, they're psychological. They're rooted in unconscious patterns, emotional triggers, and value distortions that they've never directly confronted. For 7 days, bring full consciousness to this fundamental area of life. You'll be amazed how quickly your relationship with resources begins to transform. Many people find this principle particularly challenging because money touches so many of our deepest insecurities and desires. Our financial patterns often originate in childhood experiences and are reinforced through years of unconscious repetition. For 7 days, you're not trying to completely transform your financial situation that takes longer. You're simply bringing consciousness to patterns that have been operating outside your awareness. You're establishing the foundation for lasting change by first understanding what's actually happening. What makes these 6 principles so powerful is their interconnectedness. Your physical reverence enhances your capacity for purposeful rising. Your language discipline amplifies your environmental mastery. Your purposeful service transforms your relationship with money. Each principle reinforces and accelerates the others. For 7 days, you're not just implementing isolated techniques, you're creating a harmonious system where each element supports the others. This integration exponentially increases the transformative power of the entire approach. Think about the people you most admire, those whose lives exhibit the kind of excellence and fulfillment you desire for yourself. If you study them carefully, you'll discover they're already practicing versions of these principles. Whether consciously or intuitively, they may use different terminology or emphasize different aspects, but the fundamental patterns are consistent. What separates their lives from yours isn't talent, opportunity, or circumstances. It's their consistent alignment with these principles you can begin implementing immediately, regardless of your current situation. For 7 days, act as if you're already the person you're capable of becoming. Don't wait until you feel confident. Don't wait until it's convenient. Don't wait for perfect understanding. Act now with what you already know. And watch as your life begins to transform in response to your aligned behaviors. Principle 7, integrity alignment. For 7 days, bring your actions into complete alignment with your highest values. Integrity isn't just about honesty, it's about wholeness. It's about integrating your beliefs, your words, and your actions into a unified expression. Most people experience constant internal friction because what they do contradicts what they believe. They value health but make unhealthy choices. They value relationships but prioritize work. They value honesty but engage in small deceptions. This misalignment creates profound psychological and spiritual drain. For 7 days. Identify your 3 core values, the principles you want to define your life. Perhaps they're excellence, compassion, and courage. Perhaps they're faith, family, and freedom. The specific values matter less than your commitment to embody them before each decision. Pause to ask, does this choice align with my core values before each conversation? Consider, will my words reflect what I most deeply believe before each commitment? Evaluate, does this align with who I'm committed to becoming? For 7 days. Eliminate the gap between what you know and what you do. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. It's about reducing the internal friction that depletes your energy and diminishes your impact. Each evening, review your day through the lens of integrity. Where did your actions align with your values? Where did gaps emerge? Don't judge yourself harshly for misalignments, but do acknowledge them consciously. Awareness precedes transformation. For 7 days. Practice immediate course correction. When you notice yourself drifting from your values, don't wait for a convenient time to realign. Make the adjustment immediately, no matter how small. This principle of integrity alignment creates extraordinary power in your life when you're no longer fighting against yourself, when your beliefs, words, and actions are working in harmony rather than opposition. You access energy and clarity that most people never experience. These 7 principles, practice for just 7 days, will initiate a transformation far beyond what you might imagine possible in such a short time. Not because they're magical, but because they align with fundamental laws that govern human development and fulfillment. Nothing creates more internal drain than the gap between what you believe and how you behave. Nothing diminishes your power more than saying one thing while doing another. For 7 days, close this gap through constant, conscious alignment. The energy you reclaim will astonish you. Now, let me share with you what happens during these 7 days, the process of transformation that occurs when you fully implement these principles. On day 1, you'll experience resistance. Your existing patterns will fight to maintain their position. The neural pathways established through years of repetition don't surrender dominance without protest. You may feel awkward, uncomfortable, even anxious as you deliberately act contrary to your established identity. This resistance isn't failure, it's confirmation you're disrupting patterns that need disruption. Welcome the discomfort as evidence of movement. The resistance you feel is proportional to the power of the change you're initiating. On day 2, the resistance often intensifies. Your environment, both external and internal, senses the threat to established patterns and increases the pressure to return to familiar territory. You may experience stronger urges to abandon your commitment, more compelling justifications for returning to old behaviors. This is the day many transformations die, not because the principles aren't working, but because the discomfort of change overwhelms the commitment to growth. Remember, the discomfort is temporary, but the transformation you're beginning is potentially permanent. By day 3, something subtle begins to shift. The new behaviors, though still requiring conscious effort, begin to feel less foreign. The resistance hasn't disappeared, but its volume has decreased. You start experiencing glimpses of the benefits, moments of unusual clarity, unexpected energy, heightened awareness. These glimpses aren't the final transformation, but they're evidence of what's possible. They're confirmations that the discomfort of change is leading towards something valuable. Hold these experiences as anchors when resistance resurfaces. Day 4 often brings the first real challenge to your commitment. The initial enthusiasm has faded. The full benefits haven't yet manifested, and the effort still feels substantial. This is the day when seemingly legitimate reasons to pause or modify your commitment will appear. An unusual work demand, a family situation, a minor illness, a compelling distraction. The specific form varies, but the essence is consistent, the test of your commitment. This isn't cosmic conspiracy, it's the natural process of change requiring validation of your seriousness. On day 5, a significant shift occurs for those who maintain their commitment. The new behaviors begin to feel less like imposed disciplines and more like natural expressions. You're not just acting like a different person, you're beginning to become a different person. The changes aren't just behavioral, they're biochemical. Your brain is literally restructuring itself in response to your consistent actions. New neural pathways are strengthening. New hormonal patterns are establishing. Your entire physiology is beginning to align with your new choices. Day 6 brings an unexpected challenge, early success. As you begin experiencing the benefits of your new patterns, a subtle temptation emerges to ease your commitment. After all, if you're already seeing results, perhaps you can relax a bit. Perhaps a full commitment isn't necessary. This temptation to dilute your commitment precisely when it's beginning to work is one of the most common causes of abandoned transformation. Recognize this pattern and recommit to the full expression of these principles. On day 7, something remarkable occurs. The actions that required tremendous willpower on day 1 now carry their own momentum. The patterns that felt foreign and uncomfortable now feel increasingly natural. What began as deliberate discipline is becoming authentic expression. You haven't reached the destination, but you've established the direction. You haven't completed the transformation. But you've initiated the process with sufficient momentum to continue. Now you stand at a crucial decision point. Will you build on this foundation, continuing these patterns for another 7 days, and then another, or will you return to familiar territory, allowing this week to become just another brief episode of temporary change? The choice is entirely yours, but make it consciously, understanding what's at stake. These 7 days can be either the beginning of a transformed life or just another abandoned attempt that reinforces the pattern of starting but not continuing. Small hinges swing large doors. Tiny shifts in daily patterns create massive redirections in life outcomes. 7 days of alignment creates momentum that can carry you toward extraordinary possibilities if you choose to maintain it.